Chapter 4. Becky had set her alarm clock for 6 in the morning so they'd get up and feed and walk Flash before everybody else was out of bed. She tiptoed into the den where Charles was sleeping on his pull-out couch and shook him awake. Luckily, Buddy decided to sleep in Stephanie's room with Stephanie and Lizzie. So he didn't have to beg to come out with them. It was still dark when they stepped out onto the door, cold too. Charles' breath came in a little light puffs. He pulled his hands inside his jacket sleeves to keep them warm. Becky carried a flashlight with her, and they used it to shine the way through the barn down to the aisle in the stall where Flash was waiting. "Hey, Flash," Charles called softly. "Good morning, little guy. It's us." Flash woke up in a hurry. He was glad to see the boy and girl. They had been so nice to him. They had brought him some really great food. Maybe they had something good this time, too. When they opened the stall door, Flash jumped right up and trotted over to sniff Becky's hand and let her pet him. "He likes us now," Becky said. "He trusts us," Charles said. "He knows when we'll take care of him, don't you, boy?" He gave Flash's head a little rub. "I bet he'll like this," Becky said, opening the lid of the container she brought into the barn. "Some leftover stuffing and mashed potatoes with gravy." Flash wolfed down the food and eagerly looked for some more. "We should buy the little guy some real puppy food." Charles said, "If somebody's going to notice we keep taking food from the fridge, plus he's a dog. Dog food's way more healthier for him than people food." Charles didn't really know why that was, but Buddy's kibble sure didn't look or smell that tasty at all. But Dr. Gibson, the neighborhood vet, said that it was the best thing for a growing puppy to eat. "Great idea," said Becky. "We're going to the store anyway." That's when they decided the night before. They already found out a man named Murray was delivering bread to the store. It seemed like the perfect place to start their detective work. If they could find out who Murray was and where he'd gone, then maybe they could track him down. Surely his wife and Flash didn't mean to abandon Flash on a complete stranger's farm. Charles had brought Buddy's leash with him. He clipped it on the Flash's collar, and he and Becky took out into the cold dark. The dog pulled eagerly on the leash, dashing this way and that way to check out every smell. "Come on, Flash," Charles begged. "Do your business." The sun was up in any minute, and they had to bring Flash back into the barn before that. Finally, Flash did what Charles wanted him to do. "Good boy," said Charles. They took him back into the barn and got him settled into his stall. "We're going to be back soon," Charles promised, scratching Flash between the ears. Flash leaned against Charles' leg with a contented sigh. Charles hated to leave, but if he and Becky didn't show up for their breakfast, their parents would start wondering. When they slid into the house, everyone heard voices from the bright, warm kitchen. Everybody was up, although Stephanie and Lizzie were still in their PJs. Buddy was padding around the kitchen, sniffing the floor as he checked for food scraps. "I'll take Buddy out," Charles volunteered quickly. What if Flash started barking or needed something? For now, it was better if everybody stayed inside, far from the barn. Afterwards, Charles sat down at the table and had a big piece of apple pie like Dad and Uncle Stephen. Pie for breakfast was a Peterson Thanksgiving tradition. Dessert for breakfast. Charles wished all family traditions were that cool. When he was done, he looked over at Becky. "Ready?" he mouthed. She nodded to her mom. "Hey, Mom, we're going for a walk," said Becky. "Just to the store." "Why bother?" Stephanie asked, making a face. "There's nothing there but fly swatters and old cans of beans." What a bitch. Come on, Steph, Aunt Abigail said. That store's full of lovely things, including my baked goods, if I do say so myself. Yeah, said Lizzie. I love the penny candy they sell. That little store's not that bad. Easy for you to say, Tut, Stephanie said grumpily. You get to live where there are normal stores, malls, and everything. Well, where are you going anyways? Becky said. What's your hurry? Lizzie gave Charles a suspicious look. He knew it. It was nearly impossible to hide anything from nosy Lizzie. No hurry, Charles shrugged. We're just going for a walk. Well then, bundle up. Mom said without looking at Charles. She was busy reading the paper while she ate some leftover berry crumble. It was only a 10-minute walk to the store, just long enough to take Becky and Charles to figure out a good plan for what they had to do when they get there. They had a few clues to their mystery, and they needed to find more. Charles dreamed in a deep, happy sniff when he and Becky walked in, jingling the bell on the door. Jingle, jingle. The store had squeaky wooden floors, and it smelled like chocolate and fresh bread and furniture polish, which oddly turned out to be a really good impression. They approached the woman at the cash register. Hiya, Miss Daniels, said Becky. Do you remember Charles? Sure, said Miss Daniels. You're Mr. Knock-Knock Joke, right? Charles nodded. Perfect. This fit right in with the plan he and Becky made. Knock, knock, he said. This was part one of the plan. Who's there? Asked Miss Daniels with a smile. Murray, said Charles. Murray who? Merry Christmas and to all a good night. Charles couldn't help laughing at his own joke. Miss Daniels chuckled too. That's a good one, she said. Speaking of Murray, said Becky, taking note her to the plan. Isn't Murray your delivery bread guy? Charles slipped away to look over the dog food choices while Becky asked Miss Daniels a question. Murray? Charles heard the store owner said, You know, he hasn't been around for a couple of days. We had a substitute driver delivering our bread, and unfortunately, I don't know Murray's last name or where he lives. Well, that was a dead end, Becky sighed as they left the store. But hey, at least we got something for Flash to eat, Charles pointed out. He was carrying a bag of puppy chow. It almost cost him last week's allowance. Now let's go see him and figure out what he's gonna do next. Charles said as they turned up the long driveway that led to the farm. He was so excited to see Flash that he didn't even notice Lizzie sneakily watching from the living room window as they walked past the house.